Hello, everyone. I'm Sean Perryman. I just happened to get somewhere early for the first time in my life. But I'm running for lieutenant governor here in Virginia. I used to lead the Fairfax County NAACP. And I always share with people my unusual story of running for lieutenant governor. I was first in my family to go to college, first to go to law school. Just really someone who was trying to find his way and ended up being a lawyer, practicing litigation for a number of years when I was suddenly asked to represent Donald Trump. That's the sort of beginning of this path for me. I didn't realize it was the beginning of a path. I thought it was sort of the end of one because I walked away and quit my job rather than represent Mr. Trump. And then I was lucky enough to work for Congressman Elijah Cummings. And I worked as counsel on the House Oversight Committee, advising all the Democratic members of that committee. And then Donald Trump won and became president. So when he became president, I wanted to get more involved. So I went to my Democratic committee and became a member of the steering committee there. And I also went to the Fairfax NAACP because these were the organizations where I realized I could help make change and do some good in my community. I ended up becoming the youngest president in the 102-year history of the Fairfax NAACP. And I grew that organization from about 350 members or so to 1,400 members. And we were the largest one in the Commonwealth. And we fought on issues from labor justice to affordable housing to racial justice, really bringing together diverse coalitions. As lieutenant governor, though, what I'm hoping to do is take this position that's not inherently powerful, but as one of 3 statewide elected officials, lead on a progressive agenda. We saw in this last year, this difficult year, how so many communities that are left behind, rural, low-income, Black and brown communities, are being left behind again. And this is why I'm trying to step up, using my experience on the Hill, using my experience at NAACP and as a lawyer, and now working in tech policy to really fight on the issues of the day. So I hope you will join us. It's perrymanforvirginia.com, but I'm looking forward to the discussion this evening. Thanks.
Thank you. Paul, your turn for an intro.
Thanks so much. I think actually when I was party chair is when the Young Democrats first were part of the steering committee, something that Governor Wilder wanted, and we all wanted at the time. Wilder appointed me party chair because I had run his campaign, and he was successful both times. And we had met working for Governor Robb, and Henry Howell was the big, great progressive in the state. So that's sort of how I got started in politics, in Virginia at least, helping historic lieutenant governors, and the 2 most historic, really. And so I think I have some understanding, of course, for the office. Obviously, I've been lucky enough to advise various governors on finance and various other things. And the lieutenant governor's office used to be not much in its original conception. I think Wilder made it full time, which means he gave up his law practice, which is significant, something significant for him. And most other lieutenant governors since then have tried to make it full time in their own way. They haven't really been advocates like Howell or Wilder. And, that I'm not sure why that is. But I've always been an advocate, and that's what I wanted to do with this job. When I was on the Council of Higher Education, I was the only one who demanded that they admit women to VMI. I got thrown off the council the next year by the General Assembly, but obviously I was vindicated by Ruth Bader Ginsburg on my position on the Constitution. My main focus, like everybody else's main focus, and I've learned that from politics, you have to have one main focus if you're going to be a successful advocate. And mine is education. And I've proposed something that I think that most people don't quite understand, and I may be why the Democrats voted it down. Right now, the average child in Virginia does not have a right to equal educational opportunity, which I think is, as Dr. King said, that's the great equalizer. They do not have the right. Why is that? Because the segregationists made sure the Constitution didn't give you an enforceable legal right. Now, I'm a lawyer. I don't know how many in the audience are lawyers. There is no state in the union, no city and I'm going to lead a fight in Richmond as I run for lieutenant governor, that gives you a legal right. Why is that? Because if a parent has the legal right, if that somebody says, my child's not getting equal educational opportunity, you can take the politicians to court and win. You can see why the segregationists or no one else wants that. You don't have to rely on the General Assembly. You don't have to rely on what the politicians are going to do. You've got to be able, because if you don't get your education, it's not like you can wait. And so I've been fighting with Tim Kaine, Mark Warner, for laws in Washington. We've got some laws here in Virginia, but not enough. We need to fix these schools, crumbling schools, as Bill Clinton said 25 years ago. And the only way that we can ensure to do it is we got to be able to hold the General Assembly accountable, because they keep kicking the can down the road. And that obviously hasn't worked for anybody, rural, urban, or suburban. That's going to be my focus, my advocacy.
Thank you, Paul. Next up, we have Andrea.
Thanks, Maureen. I'm so happy to be here with you guys tonight. I am zooming in from Norfolk, where I serve on the Norfolk City Council, and I represent 125,000 Virginians, which is actually the largest constituency of anybody in the lieutenant governor's race. And I'll tell you, on the City Council, I've learned to be an effective listener and a coalition builder and an advocate and a fierce ally. And those are important skills to bring to the role of lieutenant governor. And I am running because I want to continue the work that I've done locally to expand equitable access to opportunity. I was raised in Virginia Beach by a single mom who juggled multiple jobs to make ends meet. And then I went on to the University of Virginia, where I was able to get through thanks to 4 years of work-study jobs and Pell Grants and student loans. And we could talk about student loans. And after which I ran 2 small businesses of my own before coming back to the Hampton Roads area, where I saw so many families who were struggling as my mom had to get ahead. And so I decided to get involved, and I volunteered for organizations that helped victims of domestic violence and homeless families and folks who'd recently been incarcerated with reentry programs. And then in 2008, I got involved in my local city Democratic committee meeting in Norfolk and became a precinct captain. So thank you for all you great Dems who are out there who do this as well. And since that time, I've been organizing to help get Democrats elected up and down the ballot. And in 2016, I took on a 16-year incumbent to run for Norfolk City Council. And after being told by the establishment that I should wait my turn and that it wasn't my time, I beat him in 19 of 23 precincts, and I now represent half of the city. And on the city council, I have one of the first things that I did was to pass an ordinance to ban discrimination in Norfolk based on sexual orientation and gender identity. And I focused and prioritized the environment. We wrote the first climate action plan of the region, and I brought over $120 million to the area to address sea level rise and flooding. And after seeing too many families who have been left behind because of the digital divide, I stood up a regional broadband authority where we are focusing on creating access to high-speed, affordable internet for over 1 million Virginians. And as co-chair of our Social Equity Commission, I'm working on creating more affordable housing and mental health options for our citizens. I'm excited to be supported in this campaign by Congresswoman Elaine Luria, Senators Marsden and Lewis, Norfolk Mayor Kenny Alexander, and a variety of others. And I hope to gain your support tonight. Thank you all. I'm looking forward to some fun questions and answers. Thanks, Maureen.
Thank you. And go Wahoos. Next up, we have Elizabeth. If you would like to go ahead with your opening statement.
Thank you, Maureen. Good evening, Virginia Young Democrats, high school Democrats, and greater Young Democrats. I am excited to be here today to talk about my candidacy to become the first woman and Latina to be your next Lieutenant Governor. I proudly represent the 31st District in the House of Delegates, which includes parts of Prince William and Fauquier County, which is more red and rural. I am a union sister, your DNC member, a mother to 4 children, and a fighter for working people, marginalized communities, and progressive values. A little bit about my story. When I first came to this country as a young single mother with $300 and a little girl, I had to work 3 minimum wage with no benefits to afford a 1-bedroom apartment for myself and for my daughter. But I eventually put myself through community college and earned 2 master's degrees, one in social work and one in public administration, while I work full-time and raise my children. I bring with me a 17-year career of local government experience. I work in school administration, in children's services, and now I work for the City of Alexandria, Department of Human Services, where I oversee a $20 million budget and lead a workforce of 200-person operations staff. We serve some of our most vulnerable populations. I first became engaged in politics in 2006 as an activist fighting Corey Stewart's Races to 87G program. Since then, I have helped Democrats up and down the ballot get elected every year. And in 2016, after Hillary lost, I decided to run and flip my House district from red to blue after Republicans held it for 26 years. And I did this by running on a progressive agenda. I then was elected as the chair of the class of 2017, the most diverse class of delegates in Virginia's history. And as your lieutenant governor, I will continue to fight and build on our successes and ensure the progressive bills that come out of the House finally pass the Senate. Since 2017, I passed 24 bills, including critical legislation to get paid sick leave for Virginia workers. I've also passed legislation to protect our environment, reform our justice system, and serve as the vice chair of the Education Committee as we pass the largest investment in public education. A month before the pandemic began, I passed historic legislation ensuring that our frontline public workers have the right to come together to form strong unions by ensuring that public employees in Virginia have the right to collectively bargain. I am proud to be named the 2020 Legislator of the Year by the VEA and the Fairfax Federation of Teachers. And as the co-founder of the Green New Deal, I have held corporate polluters accountable, received an A+ rating from the Sierra Club every year since I was elected, and was named a legislative leader for the League of Conservation Voters for passing successfully a Green New Deal priority. Our campaign has earned endorsements of several labor unions and various progressive elected officials and activists across this Commonwealth. I've also been endorsed by CASA in Action and Project ID for my fight to get driver's licenses and ID cards for every Virginia resident. With a Democratic majority, we have been able to fight to freeze college tuition for the last 3 years, and we have worked to get young people more civically engaged by allowing them to pre-register to vote starting at age 16. So I look forward to your questions, and thank you for having me this evening.